Hello and welcome to this tutorial for creating an automation framework. So this is the first video out of multiple videos, and let me just go through real quick what I'll be covering in this tutorial. So basically, as you can see from the picture, I'll be using Selenium. So I'll be using the programming language Java, and to help with the framework itself, I'll use Maven and TestNG, and the choice of IDE is IntelliJ. I could use Eclipse, but I see a lot of tutorials out there using Eclipse, and a personal preference is IntelliJ. I just don't see a lot of tutorials out there using IntelliJ, so that's why I am using IntelliJ in this tutorial. If you wish to proceed with Eclipse, that is just fine, but some things may be different when using IntelliJ versus Eclipse. So I would prefer, if you are going to follow this tutorial, please use IntelliJ. It's gonna help you out. So let me just show you real quick what I have in plan with this automation framework. So I'll be using the page object pattern right away. So this course assumes that you have some fundamental knowledge with Java and Selenium. I'm not going to cover the fundamentals of Java and Selenium. I'm not going to cover how to create some basic test scripts with TestNG and Maven. I am going to assume that you have those fundamental knowledges. And I'll be creating a browser factory as well. I'll explain soon what I mean by that. And this framework is going to be set up that we can run parallel execution as well. Alright, so when I say browser factory, let me just explain real quick what I mean by that. So let's look at this very simple IntelliJ project where I just have a class called base util. This is a very basic example, and it simply has a driver, and then it has before method and after method. The logic is very simple, but I'm just trying to get a point across. So if we look in the before method, basically I've seen this in a lot of frameworks, I've seen this in a lot of tutorials where you put all the logic into the before method itself. So if we look here, we have an if and else statement basically saying that if browser equals Chrome, then we should do something. Otherwise, if it equals Firefox, we should do something else. And then we have an after method calling the driver.quit, which should close all the browser instances. But if you think about it, this becomes very tedious to maintain. If let's say that you have more requirements, let's say that you get your manager tells you to expand it to Safari, to Internet Explorer, to Opera browser, the method itself is gonna get so populated. It's gonna get so crowded. It's a lot of things to maintain. Very simply put. So something else I've seen this before. Something a lot of people do is when it becomes unmaintainable, what they do is to create separate methods. So let me just show you a real quick example. So they just create separate methods. Let's call this get local driver. So this is basically just a method to kind of show you what I mean. You don't have to follow with me on this one. So basically what they do is they take out all the logic from the before method itself and they put it inside another method. And sure, I get the idea. This looks great in the beginning, but to be honest with you, you still have everything in a single class, and if you add more things like headless driver, you could have another method called public web driver, get cloud driver. Maybe you have a cloud configuration, maybe you have a headless configuration, and so on. So you can see how this becomes a lot to maintain. So it is a lot easier to just divide it up or to kind of put it in separate classes. And let me just show you real quick what I mean by that. So let's look at this IntelliJ project where I have the regular base user class, but here I have another package which I call the driver manager. And in the driver manager I have a lot of classes. It may seem like a lot, but as we go through this tutorial it will kind of clear up. So let's just look real quick. So I have a class called driver manager, and it is nothing but an abstract class which have some abstract methods which we call start service, stop service, and create driver, and we have some non-abstract methods. So this is to take care of the logic of the drivers. And if we look here, we have a driver type, and this is a enum where we can simply add what we want to start up. So here I have Chrome, Firefox, headless, so these are basically constants. Here you can see that I've added Safari. If I'd like to add Internet Explorer, I could do that as well. So I simply need to just add another class. And all of this kind of comes together. If we look in the driver manager factory class, we can see that we have a static method called getManager, and it is nothing but just a switch statement, basically saying that if it's Chrome, then it should open the Chrome driver manager, or if it's Firefox, it should open the Firefox driver manager. And the Chrome driver manager is just a custom class I've created. So let me just show you. It's just a custom class that I've created which extends from driver manager, and when I extend from an abstract class, I have to implement all those methods. So the driver manager has these methods, abstract methods, but it doesn't have the logic in it. So in the Chrome driver manager, when I extend to the abstract from the abstract class itself, I am overriding the three methods and I'm putting the logic inside here. As we can see here in the start service method, I have basically a Chrome driver service that opens up a Chrome driver. It looks for the path and then it starts it. We can see in the stop service, it basically stops the service. In the create driver, it starts a new Chrome driver. And the logic is very same. If we look in the Firefox driver, it's very similar. So, I mean, it's just a minor tweaks, and I'll go through this later on. So, it's really helpful if you would like to add more browser supports. It's very easy. You just have to create another class to extend to driver manager, and then you just fill in the methods, the logic itself. So in the next tutorial, basically what I'll go through is the base structure of the automation framework I'll create, and we'll kind of go on from there.